You walk into a room, hit the light, and don't think twice. You plug in your phone, run your dishwasher, and you assume it all just works. But behind every ceiling, beneath every floor, there's a system that someone built. Someone who spent years learning exactly how much electricity can flow through a wire before it melts, before it sparks, before it kills. And that someone? They started at the very bottom, carrying wire, getting yelled at, making almost nothing. Level 1, the helper. This is where your story begins, and the bottom is brutal. You're not an electrician yet. You don't get to touch anything live. You don't get to wire anything. Your job, for the first weeks, maybe months, is to carry. You're hauling 50-pound spools of wire across a job site at 6 in the morning. You're digging trenches in the mud. You're running to the supply house for parts you don't know the name of yet, handing them to a journeyman who barely looks at you, and going back to sweep concrete dust off a floor that's just going to get dirty again. They call this the helper, or pre-apprentice. On most job sites, they call you something far less polite. You're making somewhere between $8 and $15 an hour depending on where you live. No benefits, no union card, no protection, just the work, the exhaustion, and the slow, creeping question, is this actually worth it? Here's what you don't understand yet. This phase is intentional. Electricity doesn't forgive arrogance. It doesn't care how smart you think you are, how fast you learn, or how motivated you showed up. Touch the wrong wire and you're dead. So before anyone teaches you anything, you have to learn humility. You have to learn to watch before you touch, to ask before you assume, to respect something you cannot see. Most people quit within the first 6 months. They look at the pay, they look at the dirt, they look at the distance between where they are and where they want to be, and they walk away. The ones who stay, they've seen something, a path, and they start walking it. Level 2, Apprentice, Years 1 and 2. You've been accepted into an apprenticeship program. In the United States, the most respected path runs through the IBU, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and it is not easy to get into, and even harder to survive. You're going to spend the next 4 to 5 years split between classroom instruction and real, live job sites, theory in the morning, wire in the afternoon. And the first thing they hand you, before anything else, is the code. The National Electrical Code, the NEC. This is the Bible of your entire trade. It's updated every 3 years. It covers thousands of scenarios, and you're expected to know it cold. How deep a conduit must be buried underground. How many circuits a kitchen requires. The exact gauge of wire that can safely carry a specific amperage load. You're not memorizing rules, you're internalizing a logic, a way of seeing every structure you'll ever walk into for the rest of your life. On the job site, you're bending conduit, EMT. The thin metal tubing that protects wire inside walls has to be shaped precisely with a hand bender. Too sharp an angle and the wire won't pull through. You're learning to do it right the first time, because doing it twice on a commercial job site is the kind of mistake that follows you. Your pay has climbed. You're earning around 40 to 50% of a journeyman's wage now, somewhere between $18 and $22 an hour. Not enough to feel comfortable, enough to feel like the sacrifice is starting to make sense. And somewhere in year 2, fear starts to change shape. You stop being afraid of the work. You start being afraid of doing it wrong. That shift, that's the sign you're becoming an electrician. Level 3, Apprentice, Years 3 through 5. By year 3, something happens that changes everything. You become dangerous in the best possible way. You're reading blueprints now. Not following someone else's interpretation of them, actually reading an architectural, electrical drawing and translating it into physical reality inside a building that doesn't exist yet. You look at a set of plans and you see a finished system, panels, circuits, home runs, feeders. You understand how power flows from the utility transformer all the way to a single receptacle on the 3rd floor. You're doing load calculations. You're figuring out how much power a commercial kitchen needs to run simultaneously without tripping a breaker. You're wiring 480-volt 3-phase motors, which is a level of electricity that doesn't just shock you, it throws you across a room. You're installing fire alarm systems with zero tolerance for error, because the one time it fails is the one time it needed to work. By year 4, your foreman isn't watching you anymore. You're watching the first-year apprentice behind you, answering questions you were too afraid to ask 2 years ago, and realizing you actually know the answers. You're leading small tasks, owning sections of a job. Year 5 hits differently. You're not just doing the work, you understand why it's done that way. You developed a craftsman's instinct, a sense for what feels wrong before the meter even comes out. And then it's over. You sit for an exam, one of the most comprehensive licensing tests in any skilled trade. Electrical theory, code application, load calculations, grounding systems, transformer math. If you pass, you are no longer an apprentice, you are a journeyman. Level 4, a journeyman electrician. You walk onto a job site now and the dynamic is completely different. Nobody's watching over your shoulder. Nobody's double-checking your work before it gets covered up in the wall. Your name is on it. Your license is behind it. You are the person they call when something doesn't work. Journeymen are the ones who actually build the world. Hospitals, data centers, airports, stadiums, every building in every city that runs on electricity, which is all of them, was wired by journeymen. And you are one of them now. Your wage reflects it. $35 to $55 an hour in most markets. Union journeymen in New York, Chicago, San Francisco sometimes pass $70 an hour with a pension, full healthcare, and annuity contribution stacking up every week you work. If you came from the helper stage making $10 an hour, these numbers feel almost unreal. But here's what's interesting about this level, it's also where the road forks, and most people don't realize that the fork exists until they've already passed it. Some journeymen stay here for their entire careers, and that is not a failure. That is a deliberate choice made by people who understand exactly what they have. Excellent money, excellent work, predictable hours, a craft they're proud of, no interest in carrying the weight of what comes next. Others start looking up, they see what's above them, and they decide they want it. Level 5, Master Electrician. To reach this level, you need years of journeyman experience, often a minimum of 2, in many states closer to 4 or 5, and then you have to pass one of the hardest licensing exams in any skilled trade in the country. The pass rate hovers around 30 to 40% on the first attempt. Most people who sit for it have been in the trade for a decade or more. They still fail. The exam doesn't just test whether you know the code. It tests whether you can apply it at a system level. You're calculating the total electrical demand for a multi-story commercial building. You're designing service entrance equipment. You're sizing conductors for a 1000 amp service. You're working through transformer calculations, emergency system requirements, load diversity factors, under time pressure, with no room for estimation. And if you pass, you can do something no journeyman can, you can pull a permit in your own name. You are the responsible party. You are the person the city, the state, and the insurance company hold accountable when something goes wrong. Here's what that actually means. If a building you permitted burns down because of an electrical fault, your license is on the line. Your livelihood. Potentially your freedom. The master electrician is not just the most skilled person in the room. They are the person who signed their name to the consequence. That's why the people who reach this level aren't just technicians. They think in systems. They think in risk. They understand that every decision they make has a downstream consequence they may not see for years. Level 6, Electrical Contractor. You've opened your own company. Your name is on the van. Your license is on the wall. Every job that goes out under your banner is your reputation, your liability, your financial exposure. A small electrical contracting company, 5 to 10 employees, can generate between $1 and $3 million in annual revenue. If you're running it efficiently, buying materials well, bidding jobs accurately, keeping your crews productive, you're clearing $200,000 to $500,000 a year. The larger commercial contractors, the ones doing hospital expansions, airport terminals, industrial facilities, are doing 8 figures in revenue and own a compensation that rivals what most people spend their entire lives chasing. But here's what nobody shows you when they talk about those numbers. The failure rate in electrical contracting is staggering. Cash flow is the killer. You win a massive commercial contract, a real one, the kind that should change your life, and you front the labor. You front the materials. Your crew works for 12 weeks. And then the general contractor takes 90 days to pay you. Meanwhile, payroll is due every Friday. Material suppliers want their invoices cleared. Insurance premiums don't wait. The contractors who survive this phase are no longer just electricians. They're business people. They're reading profit and loss statements at midnight. They're managing OSHA compliance. They're negotiating contracts, handling labor disputes, fighting with insurance adjusters, and bidding new jobs while the current ones are still bleeding. They've become something different. But every single one of them, no matter how far they've come, can still feel the weight of a wire spool in their hands. They remember what it cost to get here. And that memory is exactly what keeps them from taking shortcuts.